welcome to Weekly Lift. I am Latoya Logan, and we are back with the Cultivating Harmony series. We are on to episode 5, and I'm kind of sad because we've been on this journey since the beginning of the year, and unfortunately, I got to take a little bit of a hiatus after episode 5. So, as excited as I am to focus on today's episode, overcoming a scarcity mindset, I really am sad that we're going to have a little bit of a break. So I encourage you, as you are continuing to cultivate your harmony, that you're reflecting on the information, utilizing and implementing the tips, and of course, creating your own practice that would support the harmony you desire. So today, we're focusing on overcoming scarcity mindset, and this one is deeply personal for me because it's an area I continue to struggle with. When you are raised in impoverished communities with high levels of violence, high levels of under-resourced systems that can barely help you, where you are a victim of family regulation and over-policing, and there's all this imagery about how you're at risk and you're going to fall apart, it leaves an imprint on you to really shape and frame what you believe is possible. Maybe that isn't your experience, but you have experienced being an immigrant, coming over to America and struggling to really find your footing. Maybe you grew up in a very wealthy household, but you were sent out and told, okay, you get your inheritance once you do X, Y, and Z. The scarcity mindset can come from a lot of different areas. I'm choosing to focus on my experience because obviously that's where I have the most expertise, and many of my clients are coming from very similar, if not the exact same, environments and circumstances. So what is a scarcity mindset? Before we get into the definition, let's just frame that. Scarcity is really about not having. It's about not that you can't get something you want or you desire, but that you have created this belief that you are not even entitled to think about it, that you are unworthy of it, that somehow, as a result of your circumstances and what you've not experienced or been educated about or been exposed to, that you can't reach that far out. You have to stay in the limitations of your experience, just holding on to whatever it is that you have. And as I am saying these words, I'm thinking about the movie Origin, which really focuses on a caste system. And I think to some degree, a scarcity mindset is a reinforcement of a caste system that we've been taught we should align ourselves with, or that we should stay. This gatekeeping of who can live in this neighborhood, who can pursue this promotion, who can sit on that committee, who can choose to dream in this world, is very much impacted by systems of oppression, whether those systems are poverty, whether they're legal, whether they're educational, whether they're because of disparities in healthcare, whether they're simply because of the community and choosing to allow certain communities to completely fall apart. Scarcity isn't something that we're born with. It's something that we're raised to believe because we look around and we see, wow, there is much difference. I grew up in Detroit, and I had the fortune of debating in high school. Debated at Detroit Northern High School. Our debate coach, Anita Wellman, a 4'11" white woman with still one of the coldest little short pixie cuts I've ever seen. She wrote a grant to bring debate to Detroit because she felt that this is a way of exposing these youth to something different, where they might want something different. They might dream differently if they could see. And we debated in Detroit, and we were like, okay, this is awesome. But she was very aspirational, and she's like, no, we're going to debate across Michigan. So we, coming from broke Detroit Northern, inner city public school, and she would drive us in her minivan to debate at these tournaments against schools like Brother Rice, Country Day, Eisenhower, Portage Northern. If you aren't catching my drift, these are schools that were significantly different than ours. Not only were they predominantly white, but they were wealthy, and if not wealthy, they was heavily financed. I can remember going to Eisenhower for a debate tournament and pulling up to this high school thinking, well, where are we? It was a campus. It was a beautiful campus, and they had a cafeteria with options for food, and you could fix your own plates. And I was floored that this was an experience that teenagers my age were having, and that it was normal for them. They didn't even think anything of it. Not that they were ungrateful, but that they didn't understand that this was just a privilege to a whole nother level. We were cutting out quotes and research from books you would buy while they had computers and had access to LexisNexis systems to get all this research in real time. And it really just let me know, when you are invested in, when you have access to resources, when someone provides inspiration, then your aspiration can flow. You can do anything you want to do. And that is why we have to talk about scarcity, not just as a thought, but as a mindset. There are many people who appear stuck in their circumstances because they don't know how to move beyond the limitations they were raised in, the limitations they were told they had to remain in, and to access something, that seems so much bigger than anything they ever could. So we define scarcity as the context of one's perception, goals, interactions, and hopes. It refers to a condition of having limited resources or opportunities relative to one's needs or desires. When you are operating from a scarcity mindset, instead of dreaming to do these things, you lessen your dream because you're focused on surviving. You're focused on paying bills and eating and making sure your basic needs are met. And that takes up so much headspace that it makes it very difficult to reach out and try something new. So there's a lot of judgment that people get when they're like doing the same thing over and over again. And a lot of that comes from a fear of, well, I don't believe I could be successful if I did something different. I don't know anyone in my life who has been successful doing anything different. So I feel as though I need to just keep doing this thing that at least I know how to do. When we are dealing with the scarcity mindset, there are 4 key areas that are impacted. The first is this belief that you are constrained or that you have restrictions. You begin to focus on what you don't have rather than what you do have, because what you do have, at least you have it. And that becomes this, okay, how do I keep the things that I do have? So we have people who are hoarders, people who never throw anything away, people who are tight with everything they get because they're so fearful that, well, it can all go away at any time. And they're reminded of maybe how much it took to obtain that particular thing. The second area is that people believe dreams are silly. Don't dream. What are you dreaming for? Like, that's ridiculous. And so you focus on setting more immediate and practical goals. Get a job. Find a reasonably priced apartment, get a car that I can actually afford. It isn't about expansion. It's about just maintaining the sphere that you have. And so there isn't investment in evolution and rest and recovery, because you can't rest. You got to maintain what took you so long to get right here. The third area is that we see a cutthroat mentality. Very competitive nature, very much it's me versus you. It's if you get it, that means I can't get it. And we see this, it's real, sometimes, like I work in social services. I am a social worker, and I have seen people come to food banks and the food run out. And so there is this cutthroat attitude. I was here first, I was in line first, but we've seen that on a grander scale too. Applying for promotions, committee assignments, who can be friends with who. In so many different areas, we can become competitive because we are fearful that there will never be another opportunity. And then finally, we get engaged in settling behaviors. Years ago, I worked for the government, and it was a very good job. I was paid exceptionally well with exceptionally fantastic benefits. And I told my family that I wanted to leave this job to pursue my own business. I had this calling, if you will, passion. It was time. I felt it. It was happening. And all the older people in my family said to me, you can't leave that good government job. You can't to do what? What you want to do? You can't do anything that's better than that. You better stay at that job. What's wrong with you? Settling behavior is about diminishing your hope. It diminishes optimism. It diminishes the capacity to chase your dream, to go after your dream. Forget that. To even believe that your dream is a viable dream. And people around you mean well. They just don't want you to be poor. They just don't want you to lose out on something. So they're telling you, no, you got that. You better stay in that job. You got that man. You better stay with that man. You live in that house. You better not think about moving anywhere else. And it becomes this perpetuated theme that we have of once you get something that is seemingly good, don't do a darn thing to potentially knock it off its kilter. So I just want to say, like, when we're looking at those 4 areas, this isn't to judge another person. This is to help us understand why some people aren't moving, why they aren't taking risk on themselves, why they do feel like everything I fought for, and I will kill someone if they try to take it from me. Because it's a scarcity mindset. It is lack. And a lot of that is not just lack of items, materialism, but lack internally, lack of love, lack of support, lack of encouragement, lack of compassion, lack of forgiveness. All these things that make you, or I should say, encourages you to turn more in and more in and more in. And we see this with people who are incarcerated. These systems are not set up to truly help people thrive, to make necessary changes, to evolve. So before we can challenge scarcity mindset, we have to ask ourselves a few questions. Quick 5 questions. Are you ready to even challenge it? This is rooted in motivational interviewing, which is a way for providers to assess if a person is even in a mindset to consider making a transformation or a change in their life. The first question you want to ask yourself, and you're going to rate these on a scale of 1 to 5. How open are you to the idea of moving beyond a scarcity mindset, taking a risk on yourself? How open are you to taking a risk on yourself? A risk that could take your money, could take your time from something else, could take your intellectual focus or investment, could risk stability in other areas. How ready are you? How open are you to that on a scale of 1 to 5? 1, not open. 5, very open. Number 2, write down the primary concerns you have if you have found yourself to be a little less open to the idea of taking a risk on yourself. Number 3, how well do you understand the reasons for taking a risk and the potential benefits of taking a risk on your dream, on your aspiration, on a potential change? 1 through 5. 1, not very well. 5, I truly do understand. 4, what are some specific steps or actions you can take to prepare for this challenge of scarcity mindset, to adapt, to change, to bring in resources? What are you willing to do? And then 5, how confident are you in your ability to navigate this risk, this now doubt, this now fear, this now feeling that you might fail? As I mentioned at the top of this, I deal with scarcity mindset every single day, and I'm very fortunate to have people in my life, to have mentors in my life that say, let's sit and let's process it, and can push me in a healthy way to doing things that would be beneficial for me. Starting a business is very difficult, and it does not get easier just because you got more time under your belt. Now it's, how do you grow the business, and are you growing the business right, and are you making raises up? You were able to give raises to your staff. Oh shoot, can you maintain the raises that you've given to your staff? It's so much, and it's always, ooh, am I doing the right thing? And what I have come to learn from my 10K SB cohort 27 folks from Goldman Sachs at Tri-C is that talking to these other business owners, taking a risk is just that. It's a risk. You don't know how it's going to work out. But overcoming a scarcity mindset means that you have to take intelligent risk. You have to take risks that align with your values and your principles, and you have to take risks that scare you. So to overcome a scarcity mindset, it goes all the way back to the beginning of what we were talking about at the top of this series. What inspires you? What motivates you? What is the impact you want to leave in this world? Why is that impact important? Why do you want to be the person to leave that impact? What skills or attributes or characteristics do you have that uniquely position you to leave that impact? What resources or connections do you need in order to achieve that intended impact? Overcoming a scarcity mindset doesn't mean that you don't have doubt. It means that you utilize your doubt to self-reflect, to critically think, to challenge your fears so that you can live in your aspirations instead of settling into something that might be safe in the moment, but leaves you unfulfilled and unharmonious. So, I hope this has been extremely beneficial for you. This has been beneficial for me to go through this. It never is going to be the same thing every single day. We should expect to have ups and downs. We should expect to have moments when we are not in harmony with our goals and the things that we want to achieve. But cultivating harmony isn't about an endpoint. Cultivating harmony is about every single day waking up and saying, I am choosing to take a risk on myself. I am engaging in strategic yeses and thoughtful no's. I am choosing to engage in actionable alignment that supports my values and my principles. And more than anything else, I am being kind to myself because my self-worth, my life, my joy matters. I hope you have a fantastic remainder of your week, and you will get this episode in February. So happy Black History Month. Take good care and see you very, very soon.